and welcome to another episode of What We Do Wednesdays. Today I will show you, I will attempt to show you the spiral line because it will be a bit difficult to put this around my body, but I will show you the picture for it as well to maybe make it a bit clearer. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so with the spiral line, it starts, it finishes, kind of doesn't matter how you look at it because it wraps around the body, but it goes under the, right under the skull in the occipitals behind there. It runs down kind of like the superficial back line, but then actually kind of crosses more to the outside of the leg. And then, let's see, you can't see my feet, can you? No. Alright, so what happens with that spiral line is it wraps around the heel. Okay, so it comes down on the outside, so through the outer calf kind of, wraps around the heel from the outside, comes back through the inside of the heel, but then instead of traveling through the inside, it actually comes back across, travels up along the outside of your body, and then on your hips, for me it's going to be a little bit higher because I'm going to try and kind of trap the band under my arm. It actually crosses, usually what happens, it crosses from the hips, this could actually work, crosses over the hips here, over the abdominal, through the ribs, and then goes all the way around and goes back to here. Oops. So if we've got the start of it right there, this is actually not too bad. Alright, so, oops, this is going to look very funny. So this is your spiral line. Well, that's one part of it. You've got the same thing happening on the other side. So what actually does happen to the front, for example, is that you have two bands coming in through the sides and then cross over, there we go, in your abdominals here, wrap around the wrist, the ribs, and come back together through the rib cage onto the spine here, okay? Now, this construct, as you can hopefully imagine, goes down the back here, goes down the legs, through the heels, comes back around, through the front of the ankles, out to the outside again, crosses over and ends back up in here. Also what that does, it actually therefore wraps into and around and engages what we've talked about before, our superficial back line, the superficial front line, as well as the lateral lines. Okay, so now we can see starting where those lines start to interact with each other and where they glide and slide and have fibers sometimes even kind of go into each other as well. So therefore the spiral line is in anything involved that has to do with rotation. So our gait pattern is usually a rotation, but obviously we're trying to always keep nice and straight. So therefore we're going straight. However, just this, we're still rotating here. We're rotating there, we're rotating here, just in smaller ways. So we're loading and unloading that spiral line constantly as we walk. We use it in sports, obviously, you know, throwing a ball involves the spiral line, also functional lines, which we'll talk about later, which would also then involve your arm lines. They're obviously tapping into that as well. So we're getting a lot more complex here. So what we often see with the spiral line is when, for example, people come to me and they have either a sore shoulder or a sore hip, and it's usually on one side. Once we get into treatment, we can often find that the opposite side, either shoulder or hip, also kind of plays up or is tight or is a bit glued up and doesn't move as freely. Okay, so the spiral line is often very good in kind of showing off how our body is connected right to left side. So a really nice movement one can do to just get a bit of dynamic, a bit of better movement, elasticity back into that spiral line is the following. You want to try and have your feet nice and straight on train tracks. Okay, so you're down here, I have to step back forward because otherwise I won't be able to come down. Have the feet on train tracks, just under your hips. And as you go down, try and keep your heels on the floor. And I want you to go down with your hands and kind of go into a bit of a squat position. You only go as low as you can. If you can't reach the floor, that's fine. But if you can reach the floor, just reach down, let your fingertips touch, and then come up in a nice big rotation and back down. So now some people here will probably feel that that opposite heel in particular will try and come up. I might actually just bring that camera down so you can have a look what's happening with the feet. Now I'm going to go this way. So as I'm coming down to my right side, what automatically wants to happen is that left hip kind of wants to rotate in and that left heel wants to come up, okay? And this is just simply because the line is a bit short at the moment. It's not warmed up, it's not hydrated well. I've just been sitting down for the last hour, so this is actually going to be nice to get some movement happening. So now as I go through this, my heel starts to be able to stay on the floor and I'm getting some nice bounce happening, touching the floor and coming back up. And then we obviously do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going down to my left, and this is already better than on the other side because I've already done my repetitions to the right side. Now, as you come up, and I'm just going to change that up again. There we go. Everyone say hi to Sansa. Now, as you come up for your movement, it's not just a quick rotation and swing and kind of try and get a bit of a momentum happening. You still want to have reach through the fingertips away from you. So as you come down, you want to reach away as well as reach up towards the ceiling, the sky, wherever you're doing this exercise, and take your eyes with you. So your spine is rotating in one movement. And as you can hear, this is going to get your heart rate up as well. Any mobilizer you do is in itself a warm-up, because just simply going through the movements, connecting your breath with your movement will get the heart rate slightly going, will get blood flow going, and therefore will warm you up, okay? If you don't feel like your body's getting warm doing some mobilizers, you're not doing them correctly. The intent and purpose that we put into our movements or into our exercise, into our sports, makes a huge difference to how the body responds to stuff. Not much to say in terms of what we can see with tightness and stuff like this, but as I said, just a nice, if you've got a problem, if you've got a pain or whatever in one shoulder or in one hip, it is always worthwhile checking the opposite side, either on the same area or on the other main complexes like your ankles, for example, as well. These are obviously engaged as well because you've got that band wrapping down around the heel, around that ankle joint. So loosening up your major joint complexes, your ankles, your hips, your thoracic is key to work on and through the spiral line. And with this movement here, we're working on ankle flexion, we're working on hip hinge and hip decoupling a little bit as well, because we want to try and keep our knees straight. I should say that as well as you come down, but again, it goes with the heel. So if the heel comes up, the hip rotates and the knee will bulge in. So we want to try and keep everything on train tracks going forward. That way we get a bit of a hip decouple happening as well as we go down, okay? And coming up, you've got your thoracic rotation happening there. So we're covering a lot of movement with this nice one smooth mobilizer. Give this one a go, like if you've been sitting, in your office for quite some time, feeling a bit stiff, feeling a bit shriveled up. A couple of rounds on both sides, or a few rounds on both sides. You will need a few reps to get through this to feel the difference and see how you go. Let me know how you go. Would love to hear. All right, that's the spiral line for today, and we'll see you next week for the next. Till then, ta-da!